Game today.
So at this time, we will call the Thursday, January 9th Board of Education meeting to order. Do we have any comments for patrons and guests?
Just sounds like what?
Any additional communications?
Just, this is board member appreciation month, so enjoy your Stanley Cups
That's a
and
good
the food.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron.
I didn't even look.
That is nice.
So, anyway, that's the only additional communication. You do this because you care, and that's the only reason, so thank you for your service.
At this time, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
First and second, all in favor? 5-0. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
First and second, all in favor? 5-0. Academic reports. Mr. Sturgeon.
Gee, who's
looks
gonna go
it's
first?
you.
One at a time, Good evening, everyone. Attendance, we only lost one kiddo. I typed this up in December before we left because just being ready. But we lost one third grader, so those numbers would go down by one, but we didn't add anyone new. That's a little uncharacteristic. We usually have a little ebb and flow right there. But we did have one kiddo change schools. Want to bring a highlight to Miss Ivy Vetch, who's going to represent Jeff West in the elementary in the music festival down in Wichita. Mrs. Ramsey takes a group down there. Well, she goes herself every year for a PD time, but then any of our kids that qualify, she's taken as many as 6 before. And we had 7 or 8 try out, but only Ivy made it through. So we're excited for her.
That was a great picture too, by the way.
Oh, you like that? Yeah, that was fun. And we have our preschool sign up at our junior cheer night on December 6th. We had our preschool team was there, part of our committee was there, and they were getting people to sign up. And right now we're sitting at around 25 interested families. Lots of details. We met with Keystone tonight to talk about some collaborative ways we can join the 2 programs. And so we're at about 25 right now, and that is without really even trying. There is an active survey that's out there, and that went out just before Christmas. We're going to rebump it and push it out there a few different ways. We just needed to get back and get going. So we'll keep after that. I want to toss out first grade Grandparents' Day music programs coming up on the 28th. Mrs. Ramsey always does a cowboy theme. If you haven't seen that one, it's pretty cute. Swing by and take a look. And other than that, I was hoping we would start January and get busy teaching, but we did that today finally. So got that covered and we're off and running. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. We've started second semester games off with a little bit of a bump, but we've got 2 middle school games down. With that comes a rescheduling nightmare that we're only waiting on referees and we have the games rescheduled now. On my upcoming highlights, we're going to host next week. We're supposed to host our first middle school girls wrestling tournament. 2 of those teams have emailed me and said we didn't start practice until after Christmas break, so we haven't had a practice yet. At least one of them said we are not coming, period. So we're in the collecting how many wrestling matches, collecting rosters. Can we even make a go to make it worthwhile having, or are we going to push it to maybe like a first week in February date? Everybody can't come, but somebody will have lost a meet by then. Maybe picked up somebody from somewhere else to make it worth our wrestlers' while to get some meets matches in. So that's, talking with Brenna and Sean on that, having some more matches on one night might be worthwhile, at least getting kids, 2 or 3 versus if the weight classes aren't right, they might only be getting one, and that's a lot of moving pieces. Both our high school teams are both sitting 3-2. Right now, they were both hoping to be 4-1 going into break, but that didn't quite work out the way our coaches and the girls and boys had in mind. Girls wrestling, some of the highlights, I went to Atchison County, where they placed third as a team, and the teams they lost to were Rock Creek and Washburn Rules JV girls, which if you know anything about girls wrestling, Washburn Rural has the biggest team in the state. Like their numbers are booming. They compete every Friday or Monday, either beginning or end of the week for their varsity spots, and they've got girls that bounce back and forth that were there. And those two teams filled all the weight classes, and we're close, but not quite there. But our girls did really well. Finished third behind those two teams. Employee recognition stuff. Steve Butts and Leslie Abbott have done a great job to make sure our concession stands stocked and ready to go for whatever group might walk into it. They've gone above and beyond what I thought. It's always stocked, ready to go.
I might add to that, trying to revamp the whole concessions thing. Some of the equipment FBLA, some equipment FTCLA over the years. As a district, they submitted us kind of what they thought it was worth. We're just going to buy it all as a district and run a district concessions, and Steve and Leslie have done a great job.
They're very detailed. Here's what's there.
We don't want their groups to lose revenue, but at the same time, as a district, and we can compensate Steve and Leslie for what they've done, because they're still making sure everything goes to the kids and the group. So we're working on some kind of instead of hiring a concessions person, some supplemental for that. We're still working, but they're designing it for us. They've done a great job.
Guys have any questions on any of my report or anything coming up?
Just feel sorry for you. Having rescheduled.
Did we get like 3 days of open time to reschedule anything?
I mean, one of the things I'm going to ask Brad tomorrow is, can we start looking at Wednesdays?
Well, the game last night on a Wednesday was, we typically stay off Wednesdays, but the middle school would not have been able to play Silver Lake this year had we not.
League wise, it was scheduled for, like in the league contract, it was scheduled for the 2nd. Okay, well, nobody's in school on the 2nd. Nobody's really having practice on the 2nd. They might have had one coming back, and so we looked at dates, and
so there may be,
it's pretty jam packed.
They always call me and ask anything on a Wednesday. It's got to make sure that everyone else was exhausted.
And your first question is, have you looked at other dates? Can we do it another time? And so,
What's typically Wednesdays have been reserved like at church night.
Yeah.
right, and typically we've tried to end practices a little early. I know our coaches sometimes, but we try to keep
In one family
to it.
night, just
something where we don't have people going.
Appreciated.
Yes, very much.
That's-
Has no effect on
All right, well, if there are any questions, thank you.
Thank you.
I know Rhonda's here because I just talked to her earlier in her office. I bet she's deep into something. And Brenna, they still got the basketball going on in middle school, so
She said she was gonna come up when their games are done.
yeah. So
Okay.
I'm sure Kelly can keep us entertained with Keystone.
Well, I sure can. I actually have some pretty good news about Keystone this month. As of this report, this was on December 10th, but since this report, we've hired 2 paras. So Jeff West is fully staffed for para at this moment. I think I even called Doug this afternoon. I was like, before I say this, are we still fully staffed He said, yes, as far as I know, we are fully staffed for paras at the moment, so that was. some good
That's a
news with
first
that.
for.
First time I've ever been
I
able to
wonder
say
if
that.
Last time that was the case.
Yeah,
That's great.
it's never been the case since I've been on the board, so it's wonderful. That's a long time. So, other than that, the building is moving along. They've got all of their, setbacks and variances approved through the Oskaloosa Planning Commission. That's all done. They're ready to finalize plans and they're going to hopefully break ground in the next couple months. They are making plans to house JDLA elsewhere for probably the first semester next year. They've got a good spot, they think, but nothing's been official yet. They wanted to talk to staff because gas mileage and people are gonna have to travel to a new town and they just want to run it by the staff and make sure everybody's got plenty of notice on that. Also, they've started an interlocal committee that Mr. Newenswander is serving on. He's representing Jeff West on that. There's 3 superintendents and 3 of our board
I
members.
had stepped out to take the phone call.
Oh, and they nominated you?
No. Agreed.
But they are looking at, as of right now, and you'll probably be able to speak on this even better than I can, but as of right now, if the building that they are building right now, if the interlocal or the co-op were to dissolve in the future, distribution of the property and the assets would be equal amongst the districts, the way that it's written right now. And so they are looking at possibly amending the interlocal to make it a per contribution percentage. So
Yeah, it has to be.
but that's just not how it's written right now.
I know.
So they're looking into that and
And the challenge with that is every interlocal has to be approved by the state board.
Yeah.
And before it can go to the state board, if we try to amend the language, it's gotta go to the Attorney General's office. So there's a long, even though it makes sense,
you know, all 8 boards, right?
and it just takes I mean,
Yeah, it's a process.
the last time we sent something through the Attorney General's office, it took 3 years.
Wow.
So it's just,
It's nice for us that it's gonna be at freeze frame now. We do benefit from that.
Yeah,
We just got.
maybe we think.
We'll scare it for
we do.
3 years
Like,
then.
What if we're a bigger percentage in 3 years? Maybe we're
Yeah.
25%, but
I mean, it's cool that it's a.
Yeah.
Freeze frame now.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't get divvied up.
yeah,
That's
but
not
that
good.
process will take 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, us writing it, drafting it, and submitting it would take 2 months,
yeah,
3 months. Go to the Keystone Board, I mean, that won't be a long process.
right.
Then it'll just be. Gotta go through the AG's office and then to the state board.
Very good, but the rest you can read on the board report. Basic stuff. It was really.
Great.
Sure is.
Well, we'll catch. If Mrs. Frakes and Mrs. Julie end up showing up, we'll circle back to them, but we'll keep moving.
Shouldn't be long, cause Brenda just texted 7A. Well,
They just won.
yeah. And and Aaron. Oh, they're playing,
They got one more
We
game.
got one more game.
yeah, so, okay, anyway.
That's
7A boys.
We'll move on to board issues in the meantime. First one is KSV policy updates.
So just for, as a reminder, KASB sends us updates twice a year. Most of what you see is just technical. One is just technical language to make it read better. Sometimes it's federal language around if we receive federal dollars, which we do, we Title I dollars, so the federal government will change, well then you have to make sure you follow Davis-Bacon wage, you know, all of that. So they update those kind of things in here. There's nothing really in here that I believe would cause you to go, hey, we need to have a really long conversation. But this gives you, this is a receive item for you to be able to read through those. With that being said, 2 of them are new. The first one that is new was at the request of several school districts. And if you look at the summary page, it's on the second summary page towards the bottom, DFH, and that's fundraising. A group of districts said, hey, could you put together some draft language that we could consider relative to the board's guidance over the district's fundraising activities. I just wanted to share it with you because KASB put it out. But my goal for that would be, that won't be on the agenda for consideration in February. I just wanted you to see that KASB put one out. But that will then go, we'll let the administrators look at it, because I guarantee you that is sideways with what we do in our district and most districts. That's just KSB's first thought at, here's what language might look like. We do not have a board policy that governs fundraising. So we've gone as a unified school district since 1968 without one. Doesn't mean we have to have one next year. I just wanted you to see what a policy might look like. We'll visit with the administrators, kind of look at it, say, all right, how many times do we want groups to go knock on doors? Do we want, whatever, but we'll have a conversation. We just want to, visit with our sponsors, see, so there will be a lot of conversations around that one. I just included it since KASB did some work on it. The second new one is on the third page of the summary. It's the second one down. That's a new policy around stockpiling of emergency medications, EpiPens, epinephrines. That one we will hand off to our wellness committee just to look at, do we currently? Is that something that we want to get into the practice, because with health issues now, there's even, if you look at the next one, JGFGBA, they now allow students, and we have this policy, there's certain, like, it used to be you had to go to the office to do anything. Well, now inhalers and certain things, but doctors, so there were some updates to that, but we don't have a policy on us stockpiling certain epinephrine, albuterol, kids, so that'll go to the wellness committee. So those two will not be on the February agenda, but they're included, just so you know, those are new thoughts out there on. But today, this is just a receipt item to give you a month, at least. It'll be on the February agenda for approval. Most of what's on there is just updated language. So any questions on that?
Parents and community engagement strategy.
All right, so you have two documents. I find where they all left over there. So one of them was the one I sent out from the last special meeting. Bart Schwartz was here. He summarized everything and he just listed everything. The second one I gave you, so the first one is, mine's not colored, okay. Now it is. The first one was the one I shared with you, that was the whole list. The second one that you had, what I've tried to do is say, okay, we don't need 8 to 10 strategies. what I did was try to say, okay, if one of them was to develop a comprehensive district-wide communication plan, some of those could have fallen underneath that. So I'm just trying to kind of organize, condense, enhance the website's user friendliness, all right? One of them was talk about using certain color schemes, making things more accessible. The language, people talk about write it in 5th grade, don't, we're not doing,
We're not defending a thesis.
yes. So I just wanted to let you know that what I'm trying to do behind the scene or in between meetings is trying to condense. Eventually, I'll bring a set of strategies. The goal is to get 4 to 6 strategies that we can measure. So that was, I just wanted to update you on what I'm working on and what it might look like, because we don't need this long list, because some of them can fall underneath other things. So that's just an update from last month's on parent community engagement. Any thoughts or questions on that?
No, I thought that went really well. The design of how that meeting went down was extremely conducive to like results. So, very well thought out and what. It's always really nice to lead a meeting feeling like, hey, we did something good today. And that was one.
Well, so Monday nights will be similar. Bart won't be here for that one just because we already have a lot of stuff.
A lot of the legwork's
A
been
lot of
done.
the legwork already. So Monday night we'll have the facilities committee, but we have some other like Chuck's Heating and Air, Dirk Henderson from Kansas Fencing, Barry White, who will give a great report because he was up in the ceiling tile at the middle school, because that he builds commercial buildings. So we'll have.
Is the report gonna be great?
What's that?
Maybe the quality of it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be on really nice paper.
Well, I'll just say, when we were in Rose Shank's room, up on the ladder, shining the flashlight above the ceiling tile, we were on one corner and we looked across to the other side, and sitting right above Rose's desk was a chunk of cinder block about this long and about this tall and about that thick, laying. Only thing kept it from coming down was one band of ceiling tile. But we've got but I'm gonna meet Barry there again Saturday morning with lasers, and we're gonna look at just the bows, and because that Barry does that for a living, and wanted to come and just walk the buildings. We're actually meeting Monday morning. I'm meeting Barry over at Ozaki just to walk that facility, because he builds commercial buildings. So
I'm glad we're utilizing him because he has shown over the last how many years that
20.
if he can do it, he's been willing to be a part of it. And he does know what he's talking about. So
yes,
I do love that we're involving those members of our community to
That's
do those things.
so the goal of Monday night is to come up with a very similar set of, with facilities, what are strategies we ought to be considering as a district? And we'll break up in groups again. We'll have conversations. I'll facilitate that one. But Bart will be back in February for the staff recruitment and retention one, and then in March for the.
Will we talk about financial strategies for facilities also, or is this just gonna be like what can be done? Cause I mean, we can all list a lot of things that can be done, but some we just can't fiscally,
All
okay.
of that.
Rose Shank, that's middle school, correct?
Yes, she's
We have
right.
not, okay,
She's right next door to Chad Jackson.
okay.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to tour the middle school yet.
Yes, that's a,
On the fund.
we're looking on. We were actually gonna look at this Friday, but then after this week, it was,
Yeah.
okay.
Get through this.
We'll get another.
I understand.
But anyway, so. But the objective for Monday night's the same as what we did last.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, these have been really good.
Yes, enjoyed it.
Student screen time report.
Again, just information only. You have a report that we just want to get in your hands. So the state board put together, and you can see who was on it. There were students, parents, business, there were researchers, and they spent quite a bit of time. You can go through just kind of the, what they learned, what they saw. And this is all just devices, smartphones, really, personal devices. Page 12 gets into what their recommendations are. The state board made it clear this is not a mandate. But there was a lot of work that went into, and we all talked about it, and we all know as soon as the smartphone came out, it went from a flip phone to a smartphone, things changed. Adult behavior changed, student behavior changed. And there's been a lot of research since then. And actually our elementary is doing a book study on, and I think I'm on chapter 7, just on the effects. But I just wanted nothing other than the state board adopted this report. They made it clear though, this is not you shall do, but this was what the task force recommended. Actually, Tim Bain, Brad Kemp, superintendent at JCN, you'll see on there, he was part of this group. I just wanted you to have it. It's probably not going to surprise you when you read it, but it will probably more confirm a lot of our suspicions about, we went from a play generation to a screen time generation, the kids. And it all started right at that time where phones became more entertaining than kickball out in the front yard and the effects of that. So anyway, I just wanted you to have that. I don't know if you have any comments or just.
Is that something we might consider, the bell-to-bell part?
I would say this would probably lead to some kind of policy. I wanted you to have it because every school district in the state is looking at this. We can learn from other districts. Some districts are already probably match what this already has. We already have some policies in our district to where it's up to the, people just know, but it's going to take a policy, number one, but it's going to take a lot of engagement. It's going to take parents. It's going to take a lot of people having conversations about, yeah, we know with our own kids sometimes, and even ourselves, we've got to set examples as adults too. Well, that's going to affect our staff, so it's not something that's going to turn around in 6 months. But
It's not gonna be popular, we know that.
No, that great point. Because just obviously I haven't had time to read the whole thing yet, but we spent 2.5 hours in the meeting talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And this kind of points to the correlation between the two, like it's not going to be popular because we're going to take a right away. Right. Is that our job? I think our job is to get in, get that education and move on. I think we're gonna struggle the most with staff,
Yes, that was my first thought is
But-
who enforces this?
I'm really happy to see this because
It gives
top down
gives
becomes a little easier
Yes.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There's research behind whatever decision you make, number one, and number two. There's times I left the doctor's office and didn't like what he prescribed, but I knew it was in my best interest. And I think most people will get the why behind it. The important thing is spending the time having conversations about the why
Mhm.
instead of jumping into a what.
Yeah, I think parents would mostly be on board. I don't know, you'll have the ones that say, but what if, and we could what if all day.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think most of us grew up without a cell phone in school and somehow we made it through.
And this might be one of those things we end up putting a committee, I hate because sometimes committees are where you send really good ideas to die. But I think this is one of those topics where we could have a committee bring a recommendation that involves students, parents,
Yeah.
but
A mini committee like.
just like this. But anyway, I just wanted you to get a copy of it, so you had it to read. And that could be very well a future.
Well, and if they know the motivation behind it,
Yeah.
then we're trusting those that reside above us on the pyramid of
Mhm.
decision making, so.
And our kids are the first generation who's lived on devices, and so we're learning as we go that it's not great for them and their mental health, and yeah. And I think we have to adjust as we learn more, and I would like to learn more and discuss more.
Well, and Wes, the group that, the book.
Anxious Generation,
Anxious
Yep.
Generation.
Jonathan Hates.
It's much better to buy the audio version.
Fair enough.
Deal.
Yeah.
But when you get to your destination, you'll sit in the driveway
Thanks.
for another 30 minutes to listen to it. So, but anyway,
It described my two children. It was like, ooh, like, yeah, and it's interesting, I won't take a lot of time, but. In 2010, iPhone 4 came out, connected to the internet, had a reverse camera, and all the bad things shot up. Suicide and self-harm and all the stuff that you hear about just at 2010. And I'm not blaming Apple because all the phones had it, just saying that phone came out and kind of reset that industry, and all the stuff just shot right up off the charts. And I'm not as far as he is in the book, so I'll be quiet, but it was, it's.
because I drove to Colby
Oh, there you go.
And then he sat in the parking lot.
and back.
Another
Well, he was at his
half an hour.
in-laws, so probably sat out there for like a day and a half before it went in.
So anyway, I just wanted you to have the student task force report on it.
Very good. Actually, very good.
I think that the idea of the committee and engaging parents and students and all
Even a
that
survey possibly.
will really help us understand like what the obstacles truly are, how is this gonna be received and how can we solve the decision? I mean, 'cause
Yep. I would also be curious to hear how Seaman is doing after implementing their policy this year. I would love to hear how that went.
And we're not recreating something new.
Yeah.
But at least we have, it's grounded in,
Science.
and not just,
But I think on the local level, we can give them a say. I mean, we're not just saying this is it, period. This is, you give us feedback, that's your chance.
But here's why we're talking about it, we'll take it seriously.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Kelly, that's a good point, though. We do have a parent who is an assistant principal at
Yes.
Seaman that could give us some.
I'm just curious how
Advice,
did it go?
guidance.
Yeah, how did it go?
Yeah.
Enforcement and
Well,
receivement?
Mrs. Dooley, she has a pretty strict cell phone policy in her building, and I mean, they're different. I get the age differences, but like. What that looked like at first, what was some of the stuff, what were the phone calls you had now? How bad were they? What were they saying? I mean, anyway, it's good to have something above us to lean on.
Yeah.
Negotiations team, don't all raise your hand at once.
Well, so let me preface this.
John and I, okay.
There should have been something at the very beginning that I made the bad assumption that we did it in July. But when they changed election cycles, now new board members start in January. It was actually this board meeting a year ago, we selected new officers. That would have been on here also. But that was my fault. I was thinking we did that in July when I first started here, but guess what? I kind of started 2 months ago. So anyway, we will have that on the February meeting. I thought about throwing it on here as an addition to the agenda. And then I thought everybody's just going to start pointing at each other. You at least want to have a month to think about whether you would even accept anything. So that'll be on the February agenda, because the last 2 years it's been the January meeting. That was me leaving it off because I thought we did it in July because for decades it was done in July. But when they changed, board members used to be elected in April and took office in July. When they changed that, now board members are elected in November and take over in January. So anyway, that was my fault. That'll be on the agenda in February. But we do need to designate 3 board members that would like to be on the negotiations team.
Does the president or vice president, are they automatically on negotiations or is that, okay, so it could be any
Could
3?
be anybody. Typically, and I don't want 2 people to go, typically, if your spouse works in the district, it's a conflict of interest. So that even narrows it down a little more.
Well, Derek's not
So
here,
it can't
so.
be John.
I actually talked to Derek. and
Derek would
he
like
is
to
will-
do it.
Yeah, he's
Well,
willing to
and-
join me and Aaron.
Okay, well, and kind of point being, Dave's done it for years, but it's a conflict of interest for him
And he
now.
will be
because his
dearly
wife-
missed, FYI. Like, I don't think you guys realize the amount of work he puts in to that
We saw the
We
spreadsheet.
will miss
It was a
him.
beast.
horribly next year.
Doesn't have to be the spreadsheet.
I'm just saying.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it was a solemn moment.
Anyway, we do need to have 3 board members.
I will tell you for context, this process has changed dramatically over the years. It took a lot of work to do it. Is it where everyone involved wants it to be? Probably not. But it's significantly better than it was 6, 7 years ago and prior. So the undertaking is, it's not what it once was. The bridge is being rebuilt.
But it was a
So it's
lot of
safe-
hard work. to
It
get
is safe to walk on,
Little ice.
but it's not done yet. There's still some cones out there. But it's, so don't be afraid of it if it's something you wanna do, but I do know with Derek gone. He's probably not gonna challenge anybody for it if they're begging for it, but it is something he is absolutely interested in doing if we need one.
And you two are still interested? You both are?
I mean, we just did it, so I don't know.
I know,
why.
I feel
Well,
like-
just knowing that Dave's not, it makes me feel better knowing that.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it'd be a good idea to have all 3 brand new. I will say under Brad's
Love that.
leadership, he takes a big workload, so it's not so daunting.
Yeah, I think it would be bad if you just threw the other 3 blind. in, but if you're-
Right.
it's-
You're not the best negotiator skills.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, that was.
So
You could break it down to.
So do
have
we
a
not-
relative
I nominate
on it,
Derek.
then
I'm gonna
they know
nominate,
what's
yeah,
left.
I second Matt, unless someone's dying to do it that's sitting in the room.
The only other option would be you two, so.
I'm not dying to do that.
That's a really hard time for me, so.
But you could sit in if there's time you can go.
I mean, if you need me to witness something, I can
Matt, would
come
you
by.
mind, making an
Yeah,
amendment to your
I'm,
nomination to include these two ladies as well? So we can
Oh,
knock
yeah.
out all three.
I make the motion to designate Derek Helton, Aaron Payne, and Kelly Midgley to the Jeff West negotiation team for 2025. Or 2025,
25 to 26.
2025, 26 school year.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor? 6-0 now.
This year, we wanted to go on for it.
Yeah. Would you like a second first?
Are you?
Kelly is pretty demanding.
My apologies, I was just in my office working,
You're
going
all
off of the clock that's not right. And so I'm,
No.
okay, I've got 15 minutes, I've got, no, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
She checks me.
So in December, our enrollment numbers were pretty much the same. We'll see some changes this month with a couple kids going to online and one going to homeschool, and so we'll have some adjustments at the February meeting for January. And we did have 9 seniors who completed their Jeff West requirements. 2 of them are going to have a December graduation date on their diploma. The others are still continuing in tech, so they'll still be a Jeff West student. But they'll be tech in the morning and working in the afternoon, or vice versa. So making progress on their career plans. We have one young lady who's going to stay as a Jeff West student, but she has all her Jeff West requirements done, so she's going to work on taking some online Highland courses. This is a new territory for us, so we're piloting that with her to see how that would work out. So she won't necessarily be on campus because they're online classes, but we have set up a contract with her, and she'll come in once a week and meet with myself or Mrs. Jensen, and we'll look and see progress of grades, make sure things are staying on track, make sure she's not having any issues or needs any supports or resources, and kind of see how that plays out, if that's something we want to explore more, or if it just doesn't work well and we just consider it on a as-need basis.
Is she one of the 2?
She is not.
Okay, so that's in addition.
Yeah. In continuing our college and career exploration, we took the sophomores to Washburn Tech and then to Washburn University. Had a really good day with them. We have some activities planned this semester. We'll have an employers panel for our freshmen, just so they can start thinking about what are employers really looking for. And we don't like to wait till the senior year to do that, because we want them thinking about those things they can be doing while they're in high school to get that resume ready. And then we also are preparing for our individual plans of study presentations. The students will get intense on that during advisory in making their presentations, their digital portfolios that they'll present to parents. And that's like February 17th-ish, whenever those parent-teacher conferences are. So we do those intermittent with those. And then that following Friday, we're going to bring Reality U to Jeff West, which is a interactive personal finance experience. And they'll fill out a survey ahead of time that has their GPA and kind of what they think they want to go into and how much money they think they want to make, if they think they'll be single or married by age 26. And then they go in and we have some community members that host, like they're the bank, they're the daycare, they're where you pay your water bill. And so some of them will be single, some of them will be married, some will be single with a little crying baby, and they go around and have to make their budget work on what it says they make. And so this will be new for us. But it was one of the activities we were able to do with our Perkins funds this year. So we're excited to see that. We will need some volunteers for the housing the different community events. And so you may be getting some requests out there. And then we brought on a new teacher with your approval tonight for our business. And I'll share more about that when we get to there. And then we have a long-term sub, Nicolette Tunnel, who has a kinesiology degree. That's going to be our weights instructor for this semester. So, and then be on the lookout for our course book. It should be coming soon, and hopefully we can have more in-depth conversation then in February and get that approved so that we can start pre-enrollment.
I feel like we just did that.
I know, it goes fast. Other questions or?
No, just shout out to the maintenance team for the parking.
Oh my
lot
gosh,
sidewalks.
amazing.
And they look great.
I've not
You're
seen
picking it up.
those piles of snow so high in our
I've
parking lot
never
before.
seen them that high in our parking lot, ever.
So, yeah.
Well,
Kansas native, when was the last time?
Somebody said 78 or 79.
24.
It's been a while.
This
Correct.
is 13 point something.
Really? Guess that wasn't. that long.
93
I meant
before
10
that.
years.
Really trustworthy.
Well,
Yeah.
shout out, thanks to Matt and the city, or
Agreed.
we would not
Yeah.
have parking lot.
Working together with that, that's been awesome.
That's
Appreciate
great.
that.
Of them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It does not look like we have any student issues or facility equipment planning at this time, so. Now we're ready to rock and roll with personnel items. So. We'll get a motion for some executive session.
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session. Mr. President, I move to enter executive sessions per KSA 75-4319 for a period of 30 minutes. At 7:20. To discuss personnel non-elected under KOMA exception to include Dr. Newenswander in admin as needed, with the meeting to open and to resume in the boardroom at 7:50 PM.
Second.
First and second, all in favor? 6-0. Let's go.
It snows in the Iowa approach.
It's tricky getting it right, I think, like, it's tricky.
I don't know. It said less than an inch this morning.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm on the Kansas end of the city hall. It's snowing.
We know these tires don't make it.
On task.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation as presented.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to accept the contracts as presented.
Second.
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Lot of names, so for anyone wondering, those will get posted so that those are identifiable to everybody.
Just, and I can run through the superintendent report really quick. The only update on non-resident student policy is we don't need to have an update, because really the only change is we have to start accepting applications by January 1, which between January 1 and June 15th, which we always accept. So it really, I thought we were going to change some updates from that policy, but we don't have.
Will we have to advertise or like send to the paper and do all that similar to this past year?
It just has to be on our website, and it already is.
Cool.
It's our enrollment. You go to that and it says open non-resident for that. So
Cool.
We're already good. I'll be submitting for a preschool pilot grant by the 16th of this month. We'll be asking for $50,000. It's a capped state $8 million that gets divvied out to school districts, but hopefully we'll get a little bit of that. We're gonna ask for 50,000. But every district that applies for that one piece of the pie, the more that apply, the smaller the pieces get. So, but I'll be submitting that by the 16th. We do, just a reminder, we changed Monday's special meeting. That'll be here to 6:30 from 5:30, just because middle school games, they are at Rossville. Excuse me, Rural Valley. That gives more time for board members to be able to hopefully catch some events on that. You do have in front of you, it's called Game Time. So we received the federal playground grant that would match 100%. So we put in 75,000. We got 75,000. So we basically, if you look at the second page, that's an exact replica of the playground equipment we're getting. But that's just the hardware for the equipment. The front page is the quote from the company to install it. The first section, $60,000 if you go through, but they've got to have it, just like if you think about the elementary playground, you can't just roll turf out over the grass. You got to dig it, you got to compact it, you got to put a soft layer, you got to put the turf. The next section, if you look at the back of that, we're wanting to put a sidewalk around to the back with a pad with a canopy so the kids can have places to ride their tricycles. So that's the canopy. You can go through, they got to excavate. They got to do concrete curbing all the way around the whole thing to hold all of the playground equipment. $154,000 to install the equipment that we got. Now, they always provide that because someone's gotta come and do all of that. And that's the cost of getting it all set and ready to go. 41,000 is to install the unit itself. We need to have someone install it because I've been where we try to get a bunch of volunteers and with a piece of equipment that's
No
not.
way.
So I just wanted to share this with you because there's concrete, there's excavation, there's drainage. I will take this and they know they provide it to say, here's the companies we use and what they bid to do it. We can always go get our own bids. So I will be putting this out. We have concrete, we have excavators, we have, so it's 154,000 for them to come, turnkey it done. But we will take this, I will contact local, I will put it out, we'll put it in the Vindicator. We will let people know that, hey, we would like to get local bids, because I think we can get that down quite a bit, if that makes sense.
Will the local bids be a sealed bid opened?
However we want to do it. What I would like to do, since we have time, is to get it out there. Let the companies that want to, you know, I know I know two concrete companies.
Yeah.
I'll wanna call them, because I don't know if they're gonna look at the Vindicator. Or, you know, I don't want them to mess out and say, well, I didn't, you know.
But I'd like to see, just so we don't ruffle feathers, that it's all a sealed bid
Yeah,
submitted. I mean, we already have this out,
well, but
but
the way these groups work is they work through federal grants for the equipment, but a lot of places don't have, like when I was at Cheney, we didn't have a concrete company in the district. We had an electric, you know, so we had to rely on them to come. But they know and they tell us now, if you have excavators, and they can beat that, well, we might have 2 or 3 excavators. So yes, we'll want to say, submit your bid. We'll want to put this out there, let them know it's at the district office. You know, we'll want to submit it, but there's a lot of.
Bid it as a whole, or are we gonna open it up to,
Each wheel.
like, what if someone only wanted to bid on the concrete work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then we'll have to sit down and say, okay, because, you know, I don't think Americrete, no, they can do excavation, but they can't do the top part, and you gotta we want someone licensed to
Yeah.
install it. So it might be that we just use, game time just for the 41,800
Install.
to install the thing.
What does closed bid mean?
Means that their bid number is not disclosed until.
we open it, they're all open at the same time.
Oh,
It doesn't
At the
control
meeting.
us to any specific thing, but it's,
So people can't undercut.
if you're
Yeah,
dealing with
so it's-
local
Oh,
businesses
okay.
and everything like that, the
Yeah.
numbers aren't floating around where they can play off.
Okay.
And typically what you do with the closed bid is you have the meetings at 6:30 in February. At 6 o'clock, you call the meeting order to open bids.
Okay, not to be faithful.
And then
Yeah,
you auction. Yeah.
Yeah, now, these companies are used to, everybody knows what they would do it for. But we can then put it out locally and the locals can see and say, okay, because this is public,
Yeah.
and they know that.
It's like so much on there is not. It's brief, but a contractor can look and go, oh, well, they must be this, and this, so.
Okay.
We did one at the city, we did that exercise thing, and we were very fortunate that Mammoth did the concrete for free. And RNS assembled it for free, and I'm gonna tell you what, it's not nothing like what they did at the country club or at the elementary school,
Or at the
and I was
park when we
overwhelmed
did-
with the box of bulbs that comes out.
You're like, yeah.
I will tell you right now, if you ever run into Ben Drogi, when you put the electric together,
Well,
we had a whole lot of bolts.
and if, I know this is a small
Wonder my kid
township,
fell through it.
Yeah.
if you look at, if you can read the dimensions of that. I mean, but we're gonna have potentially 83 and 4-year-old, you know,
Yeah.
and it's. And with the federal grant paying half of it, so that's a lot of nuts and bolts and washers.
Yeah.
And flexibility.
And,
Yes.
and if we're gonna have kids on there for years, we want it installed.
Yeah.
And I said it before, I think, if I remember right, when they took the old one out. Or something, the threshing, was it something about, it had to be inspected for insurance purposes?
Oh, I'm
Wasn't
sure.
it something along those lines? There we go.
It's,
They had to have, somebody had to be there inspected to begin with.
so anyway, I'll be putting that out, just because I think. Local companies will save us
A lot.
more than $154,000,
All right.
and that's what we.
And if we end up having to spend $150,000, nice to pump that money in tax revenue.
Well, and they're gonna, yeah, they're going to be invested in it, not monetarily, but
Yeah,
you know, it's their kids playing on it.
but we do know there's 41,000 to have someone licensed to install that.
Yeah.
For insurance for all of that.
Yeah.
But, the only last, thing is we need to select the dates for the special meeting in February for the board goal on staff recruitment and retention.
Any day but the second Tuesday.
Any day but the third Wednesday.
The 12th,
There you go.
February 12th.
Or the first Monday.
There's like 2 dates in the world that I cannot book over. My wife's.
Well, yeah, that's a good one.
12, but
My daughter's also the 25th. so that
13th.
should be Thursday.
What's that the date?
12, I think he's saying that's when he's okay.
So the,
12.
And that, okay.
third.
so the
12th
board
is
meeting,
fine.
the board meeting will be on the 3rd is the 12th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Any naysayers?
Who's coming? The district leadership?
Well, we'll have that one. Will be, there's 2 left, staff recruitment, retention, and student success and preparation. We want to hold the student success one to the last. Because our district leadership team, we're going through data reviews, you know, and that's in February. So
Okay.
we'll, you know, if you have ideas and we'll kind of communicate, but we'll want our, you know, especially staff there that want to have conversation about recruitment, retention
The
ideas.
negotiations team should be invited.
Yes.
What time do you want to do that?
It's a Wednesday night. I hate to be inconsistent, but we could do it at 5:30.
I like it.
Since it's not on a ball game night.
Mhm. I love it.
That work for you? Or you got it?
Yeah.
okay.
You have a voice at this when we schedule them too, because your schedule is.
Yeah.
So,
Works for me.
so we'll have Monday night around 27, 28 people that are invited. So
Good.
it'll be another good group as last time. And if we have people come in and we have room around the tables, we'll invite them to sit with us. And
I thought the last one was really good.
It was.
I got one thing before we go, it's for you to look into. The elementary school is at the county. Is school district 24. The new east wing, the newer part of the county is USD 340. How do we get that? I mean, we got to get to the title company to get that straightened out. But it's titled as school district 24. The reason I know this is when we did the sidewalk, we had to do the title work. But I just look, it's still school district 24.
I'll get with you on that, because I'll probably have to get with the, attorney with Kansas State
Well-
Department of Education, because he's the one that has the book of knowledge of in 1968, when all the unification and everybody,
And it probably wouldn't be such a big deal, but half the building is 340. And the other half the building
Is that a lot?
is District 24. I mean, somebody
don't
wants
see
to
that
claim
come
that they're
across
District
on
24.
well, if
If
you can get me that kind of stuff, I can send it to them and they can help. Cause we had an old one-room schoolhouse that a township was using, but they found out our school district owned it. So we went through the process of selling it to them for.
What happens if we go for a grant, we're using federal money and they're wanting to know what building it's going into? And they go to the county GIS and go, well, let's go into District 24, it's not 340.
Yeah, federal grants go by what the state education agency identifies. And every now and then you run into some local type of thing, but the state doesn't recognize.
So we're no longer District 24.
Yeah,
I didn't know we ever
If
were
you-
District
I'll
20.
get with you
Well,
on
what run was when Wes said 60, whatever, we were 340, we've been 340 for how many years?
Since 70.
Since 70. So before 70, we was in District 24 or something, I don't know.
Unification started in 68, and it started with USD 200. And then it was in order 201, 202. Well, we're 340, so it took us 2 years,
Oh, to get to the.
yeah. I think it took, you had 3 years to make up your mind where your property tax wanted to go. And USD 501, Topeka was the last one.
Kansas City next to last.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, that's
Y'all got anything else?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for these cups. That's very nice.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
really,
Thank you
you
so
don't
much.
get yours given
Yeah,
back.
meeting adjourned.
No, he doesn't get his. He wasn't here. I always felt bad.
I'll take yours. Just kidding, I have 2 minutes.
5:30.
I don't